Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I am 𝗍𝗂𝘃 and my mission is to inspire you to grow, stand out, and take action towards the next level of your life. I interview leaders, authors, successful entrepreneurs, spiritual teachers, exceptional people who will inspire you to improve your life. Tune in for 2 episodes each week and make sure you subscribe to get them as soon as they are released. Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast, episode 155. Today it's going to be quite a different episode. I wanted to share with you an experience that I had the previous weekend, and I think it's something quite interesting. So a few days ago, for the first time, I did something called a floatation therapy, or I had heard it before being called a sensory deprivation tank. And this is something that I have heard a couple of times before during my podcast conversations, and I really wanted to try it. So if you haven't heard about this before, floatation therapy involves lying on the surface of warm water, and this water is saturated with Epsom salts. So when you lie on your back, you are pushed up and you float like a cork. And what's interesting is that both the water itself and the air are being heated to room temperature. So your body doesn't feel where it really ends and where the water or the air begins. And on top of that, the room is soundproof, and it's also pitch black darkness, and this eliminates the senses of sight and hearing. So this is what the floatation tank is all about, and I will share with you some of the benefits that it has first of all, and then my own experience. So regarding the benefits of floatation therapy first, the one that interested me very much was meditation, the improvement, if you will, of meditation, or the ability to go deeper into meditation. There are some other benefits that are very useful, such as boosting creativity, muscle recovery, relieving aches and pains, and also reducing anxiety and stress. But for me, the main reason I went was what I was looking for was the meditation, the ability to shut off my senses, my sight, hearing, sense of gravity, so that I could go deeper. And as far as my experience with it, first of all, the feeling with the body floating, I wouldn't call it exactly weightlessness, but it certainly felt very, very light. My weight felt much, much less. And because of the temperature, it was quite easy to stop being occupied with the body senses. A very interesting thing was the pitch black darkness. It was an interesting observation. At some point I opened my eyes while I was there, and it was the exact same darkness that was with my eyes closed. And you know, when you meditate and you have your eyes closed and you have your eyes open, there are very uniquely different experiences. And in this particular case, it was the same exact darkness, regardless of whether I was having my eyes open or closed. The only difference was the feeling that my eyelids were shut or open. There was no other difference. And another thing I noticed was my breathing. I felt like I was breathing more slowly, and it felt like more of a shallow breathing. Somehow I felt like I was not breathing very deep. I was breathing just enough as I needed to maintain this state that I was in. And because I'm more used to the active diaphragmatic breathing by doing Wim Hof breathwork exercises, while I was in the tank, it felt like my breathing was more shallow, and It was certainly very slow and very relaxed. And as for what was happening with the mind, that's where some really interesting observations come. The mind, as it often does, obviously initially started projecting thoughts and fears and all the terrible things that might go wrong while I'm there. It was quite easy for me just to relocate my attention and put it into the present moment. So I did not entertain those thoughts, and they just went away quite quickly. The whole experience was very relaxing. I felt like I could sleep if I wanted to. And even though I'm not a person who sleeps easily on his back, I think it would be very easy for me to fall asleep in there. I didn't, but I could have. And another sense to mention, or lack of sense actually, was not hearing. Because I was wearing earplugs and there was nothing coming from the outside. What I remember very clearly is I could hear my heartbeat. That was the only thing really that I could hear. And it was soothing. So if I were to summarize the experience, what really stands out for me was how relaxing, how calming, how tranquil I felt. And the feeling that I had afterwards, and it lasted for a good few hours, was a deep sense of calmness and relaxation. It felt like time had slowed down and I was more present. And especially just afterwards, I felt like I wanted to whisper. I didn't want to speak loud. It was so peaceful and tranquil and slow. And I had a big smile on my face as well. It was a very calming and a very freeing experience in many ways. So a wonderful experience in all, and certainly something that I will do again. And one thing that I am going to do differently next time, and that's a bit of a self-reflection right now, is those initial 10-15 minutes when I first step into the tank. I think these are crucial if you want to go really deep, really fast. And I mean deep in the mind, not in any other way. Going deeper past the mind, if you want. These first 10-15 minutes can set the tone of the next 30-40 minutes afterwards. Because once the internal dialogue is set aside in a way, then the experience of the floatation and essentially the sensory deprivation can really facilitate this going deep. So if this resonates with you, if it intrigues you, check out floatation therapy or sensory deprivation tank. There are quite a few around, so you might be able to find one easier than you might think. Or if you find yourself in the town of Colchester in the UK, go and visit 𝗿𝗲𝘀𝗀𝗃, which is the place that I went. So thank you very much for listening. I hope I gave you some interesting pointers or something to consider. And a couple of announcements, if you wish. One of them is look out for episode 160, which is coming up soon. And I will not say much because I'm working on something very exciting, very new for me, and I can't wait to share it with you. But apart from that reason, it is the actual topic of the show, which involves something greater than me, greater than you, something greater than all of us. So that's all I'm going to say for now. Keep an eye out for episode 160. That was the first announcement, and the second one is for the next 3 episodes. So I have picked 3 interviews that I did in the early days of this podcast, and all 3 were interviews that were quite long, and at that time I had split them into 2 parts, and they were outstanding conversations with deep messages inside. And I am going to bring them back to the surface again while condensing them a bit, so to make sure that you check them out. I realize sometimes that, especially if you have discovered this podcast fairly recently, it's difficult to go back and check out 150 plus episodes. So there are 3 interviews that I think you will benefit listening from, at least if the topic interests you, that is. So I'm going to, for your convenience, condense those 3 conversations and present them in a more concise format over the next 3 episodes. And I really hope that you will enjoy them and get those messages that they share. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, stand out, don't fit in.